I think I'm just gonna do this all in one take, so let's just get to it. Hello YouTube. It is me, East, a Temtem player, streamer, and caster, and here I'm gonna bring a video about my first impressions of patch 1.6.2, which was released today. Alright, let's get into it. First, we're gonna react to the patch notes, just give some brief thoughts, and then we'll just do a quick tier list just to kind of show where I think all the Tems are at right now. So let's get started. I think I can see, yeah, you can see it on the screen there, perfect. Temtem balance, PvP. Start off. Bataru, Resilient has been removed from its traits. Burglar has been added to its traits. So, Resilient was introduced in 1.6, possibly one of the strongest traits of all time. Maybe one of the most broken things in the game's history. It basically made it Bataru survive being knocked below 1 HP, but placed one turn of the Doom status on it, so it would die at the end of the turn. So it basically made it so that if you could run any immunity to Doom at all, Bataru, it would be incredibly powerful, and also get a +3 stage boost to its speed. Synergized really well. Bataru's Rage, which would increase its increase its offense and lower its defense. Just in general, it was a really huge headache. Turned a lot of people off of playing ladder, and people kind of got a little bit bored of this meta a little bit quicker because Bataru was so much better than everything else. So Resilient's been removed. Then Bataru now has Burglar. Burglar's actually been slightly reworked. We'll get to that when we get there, but safe to say it will not be the most commonly played trait on Bataru. Soft Touch looks a lot better. Bun Bun. I run a monthly tournament series where the winner gets $20, and Bun Bun won the Pacific region. That's like Southeast Asia, Australia. That region's tournament monthly was won by Scarsing. Great player who played a team using Bun Bun instead of its evolved form Mudrid, just so it could have access to the Resilient trait. Obviously, Resilient, just that powerful. It being removed from Bun Bun, pretty nice. Camaraderie. Bun Bun will not see any competitive play after this, so it's not particularly. Bun Bun's evolved form Mudrid gets a stamina boost. Base stamina increased from 44 to 52. It's a pretty sizable TV investment increase on Mudrid. Mudrid is getting its best technique, Crystal Deluge, nerfed, as we'll see later in the notes here. So it's a nice stamina boost to Mudrid. It's going to need a little bit more, though, as the devs sort of acknowledged. Next patch, patch 1.7. Rolder now has increased stamina as well. Rolder went up 7 points from 51 to 58. This puts the number for Rolder to get to 81 stamina, which is normally where you want to be for a bulky physical attacker, especially with high stamina costs on its moves. Rolder's stamina still requires over 100 points of TV investment to get over 81, so still struggling quite a bit, Rolder. When we get to the tier list where it fares. Alohi, Furor, has been removed from its traits. Furor was a trait that would make Alohi the more powerful, the closer it was to going down. But that was, of course, not very useful on a Tem that doesn't have a lot of defenses. Sentinel has been added to its traits. Another Sentinel. Sentinel is a trait that makes you and your ally immune to sleep. So that's always great to have to fight the cringe sleep teams in the metagame. Mushi has also lost Resilient. Added Receptive. Mushi doesn't see much play at all. It's more of a little cup change. Size Munch gets a massive boost to special defense. 11 base points of special defense. This should encourage people to cook a little bit with Size. Size Munch is sort of your prototypical setup sweeper, where it uses heat up, tries to hold on for that turn, and then uses Size Munch Wreck to deal massive damage. This buff will help it survive those turns. It's a pretty substantial buff to special defense. So, we'll love to see that. Gazma, lots of changes here. Tornado has been removed from its tech pool. It now learns Blizzard at level 67. No longer learns Cage, and now learns Electromagnetism. Now, they say here Electromagnetism is getting changed in what looks like probably 1.7. But also, the crucial change here, the big one, is Tornado has been removed from the technique pool. Tornado is this big turn 2 nuke that Gazma kind of relies on to be this all-around value Tem, in addition to being a fantastic support. It's being pushed more towards that supportive angle. It kind of reminds me a little bit of when I first started playing Temtem in 2020, 2021. Kazuma had a similar role here. It didn't have any strong wind moves. That was sort of its weakness, and kind of seeing that come back around again. Could still be a pretty strong support Tem, but definitely it felt by that. UI Resilient replaced with Air Specialist. Another change that impacts Little Cup mostly. Story, if your Story 2Y, I think is always Spoil Sport, so I don't know if it'll affect Story that much. Vulor has had Resilient added to its traits and it's lost Individualist. Vulor, this is a Rayuri buff if you do your refights. Probably the only place you'll see Vulor. Minox has lost Body Stretch and gained Resilient. I don't recommend playing Minox. Unlike Minotaur, does not have the speed boosting trait to take advantage of things, but Resilient might provide that. Who knows? On to the techniques. Harmful Microwaves. The Harmful Microwaves has had its synergy changed. Now it's fire instead of electric. This is a pretty substantial change to how aggressive teams play. Harmful Microwaves is sort of the signature attack of digital cores. And now it's been nerfed pretty substantially. I don't know about nerfed. It's been changed pretty substantially. The particular combo, as noted here by the devs, Munko and Zalbian. These two kind of terrorized the meta for a really long time. Basically, really strong Electro Punch user that could combine with a really strong Harmful Microwaves user to basically protect one another from threats. Dealt a kind of incredibly powerful damage. One of the things to keep in mind with electric types in Temtem is that electric has 4 weaknesses, but also 4 resistances. So normally you want to be able to swap into electric attacks, take half damage, and then counter from there. But when combined with Munko, that really wasn't possible, because digital attacks are impossible to swap into and gain value from, so that combination was really... Typing being switched to fire is obviously big news for water types. Water Tems should see a lot more play. It's 1.6.2. Blue screen. The priority on blue screen has been reduced from normal to low. This is nice. Mostly just the kind of toxic strategy in the game at the moment. I don't mean toxic in terms of type, but in terms of like community-wise has been to play Tems like Lawaddle or Waspine, lower your opponent's speed and try to freeze lock them out of the game, or stun lock them with Crystal Deluge and blue screen bind. And those things have now been dialed back. One of the ways they've been dialed back is blue screen priority has been reduced to low, so now you have to lower speed a lot more to get ahead of them. Crystal Deluge, hold has been increased 1 to 2, stamina has been reduced 29 to 25. I am probably exaggerating a little bit here, but I don't really think I am. This is one of the most impactful changes that have been made to the game last year. Deluge has sort of defined what you can afford to play as a bulky defensive type of team, because you would spend so much of the game asleep in front of setup Tems or other teams that could just afford to ruin your turn economy. Crystal Deluge is an incredibly powerful move. It's prio with synergy, it sleeps for 2 turns with synergy, and it has base 100 damage. So it was basically 3 for 1ing people anytime the sleep would land. And that's been taken out of the game, or it hasn't been taken out of the game, sorry, but it's been pushed to hold 2, which is around the power level that sort of move should be at. Dealing with synergy being changed as well. Traits. Bird Season. This is Grandpa's lesser played trait, I would say. Maybe that'll change now. Bird Season increases Grandpa's wind moves damage to other wind temps. Case. Damage has increased from 66% to 100%. This means that Grandpa effectively 2x's Volarend, which is pretty nice. But also, it isn't resisted by other winds. Change. Obviously, Grandpa not seeing very much play at all. Could definitely use a buff. Burglar removed the once per battle condition. Removed when inflicting status conditions. This is important, particularly for Volfi. Burglar can now disable 2 gears at once, and new effect, being a target that is already affected by sleep or exhausted status condition. Gear gets disabled until the end of the match. So there's now no longer a limit, I believe, on how many times you can burgle an opponent's gear. However, you have to have pre-placed the status condition in order to get the reward, which is removing the opponent's gear. This is definitely a very unreliable trait, and unfortunately for Burglar, it's being played mostly on... It's only available on Volfi and Tataru. Tataru has Soft Touch, which is an even better way to interact with Sleep. And Volfi has Team Elusive, which, as we see down here, now prevents multi-targeting negative status techniques as well. I'm curious, this probably works with Cage, which is nice, but it also just prevents Volfi from being hit with a lot of negative status techniques. It's a big buff to Team Elusive, and Team Elusive should really see a lot more play. And than Burglar. There's really not a lot of reasons you want to run Burglar unless you are trying to farm YouTube engagement. Resilient. Despite being taken off of pretty much every competitive relevant tem, its speed stage modifications have been reduced as well. Cool. So, Adaptive. This is probably one of the buggiest traits in the game's history. Adaptive is Arachnite's trait where, upon taking damage, it would change type. This has caused a ton of bugs, and this is sort of, I think, the way of dealing with that interaction in a not-so-buggy way. Get it? Because it's a spider? Not a bug. Adaptive now triggers before taking a hit, so this means before you receive the effects of the incoming technique, Adaptive will trigger. Special attack buff has been reduced from +2 to +1, and it changes your typing before you receive the damage or the adverse effect. So, this is really nice, obviously, for Arachnite dealing with, I believe it's 7 out of the 12 typings in the game. Water, electric, fire, pretty much anything that resists itself, Arachnite is going to be able to resist now when it gets attacked. So, like nature, fire. Changes its attack before it takes damage, which is really nice. Having Adaptive trigger after receiving damage is what was causing the bug. It's an interesting change to Arachnite. I don't know if it's necessarily a buff or a nerf. I think really skilled players could do some really strong things with +2 Adaptive. That's sort of being normalized a little bit, which is unfortunate, but it's just the way it is. Time to hydrate. Yeah, baby. Alright. Straw Shield. Damage reduction increased from 50 to 75%. This is a really big buff to Straw Shield. This is definitely good news for teams that take 4Xs and don't really rely on a gear. I want to say Mudrid is probably the biggest benefactor of this change. 2 Kai could be pretty good as well. And Scunch and Venmet, perhaps. Straw Shield now reveals at the beginning of the turn, which is great. Tukma Mask. The previous effects no longer work. And new effect, Tukma Mask prevents poisoned status condition. So, this is a pretty big screw you to Toxics. It's not likely going to see a ton of play over top of something like Bait or Chamomile, or just playing own Toxics, or playing Spins with Neutrality. yada yada yada, but it does exist. If you really hate toxic Tems or toxic stacks become strong in the meta, poisoned with time. That's our balance changes. I think we're going to keep this all in the same video. Let's just do a tier list as well. Get used to goal content. Alright, let's get into our tier list here. So, you'll notice right off the start that we've got S, A+, A, B+, B, and C. S is insanely good. Meta-defining. I don't really think there's any Tem that belongs in the S tier at first blush, but we'll kind of see where we end up as we go along. A+ is really good to build around and fits in lots of different teams. Very strong Tem. A is like really strong Tem. Again, fits into lots of teams. Could be built around, but a little bit weaker than the A+. B+ requires a lot of dedicated support to like, or maybe still good at fulfilling certain type niches, or like, you know, you need certain typings. They'll be here. B requires almost an entire team built around it. C is the closest thing to you shouldn't run this, but I really do think that everything in this game can be run. So I would encourage, you know, everyone to play almost everything in these teams. There will be some Chromions and some Koishes. These are all like multi-type Tems. They just won't get ranked because you don't see any play at all. And also the baby Tems won't be ranked in the tier at all, except for Vinx, which is, and maybe I'll put Minox in here. We'll start off with Mimit. I'm going to go ahead and put Mimit in the A+ tier to start us off. Mimit is an incredibly flexible, powerful Tem whose main gimmick is turning into other Tems. Does this either with landing transmog, which goes counterclockwise, choosing its target to transform, like Cube, or striking transmog, which targets something, whacks it for a small amount of damage, gains some speed, and then transforms. If there was one Tem that I think could be S tier, it would be Mimit. I think Mimit is S tier, and all of us are just not good enough to bring out the best in it. But for now, I'd stick to a more sane level of take here and just put it in A+ for now. It's extremely flexible. It fits into more teams than you would think, especially striking transmog. Mimit be very creative with its application, create lots of interesting combos, find lots of opportunities to make it work. A+ is kind of where it stands. Next up, we have Zalbian. Zalbian in the last patch would have been pretty close to A+, I would say, but with the change to how harmful Microwave synergizes, and Zalbian's attack T trait making it unable to turn into a fire type at priority, I'm going to say Zalbian's stock has fallen quite a bit here. It's still useful to protect Digis from water Tems with the Electro Punch synergy. However, it is much less flexible of a lead. It's good into a lot fewer situations. A lot fewer? Is that English? I don't know. It's not as strong of a lead for sure. For that reason, I think we're going to lower it down the list. At first glance, I'm going to put it in B+. It's still very strong. I would be really interested to see people sort of fit Zalbian into like 3-part digital cores. You can definitely see it working with like Water Chromion and like Hedgen, you know, Tems that aren't reliant on Zalbian to create their own prio. Harmful microwaves. But I do think that it's going to fall off from usage in digital teams, not be as strong. Chromions, there are a lot of different Chromions. I'm pretty much going to rank just the ones that I think are going to see play. I think like you will see the odd Grass Chromion. It's a pretty strong Tem, but it's not very well understood. And also just kind of lacks in stats compared to Moments. And obviously Fires being more common in the digital mirror is not as good for it. Fire Chromion, I will say probably going to be an A-tier Tem. It synergizes really well with Landing Transmog Mimit, because now Harmful Microwave synergizes with Fire. Also, they self-synergize with Hellfire. There's a lot of really interesting stuff you can do. It's probably pushing A+, but I don't like the consistency of Chromion in a lot of situations that can't make its own prio. For that reason, I think it's here. I think the only other Chromion that... Well, okay, I think the niche potential, like a B+ here for neutral Chromion, because now that you want a digital Chromion to represent every type of Chromion. No, they're different Temps. They play differently. For example, the thing that you would like about neutral Chromion is that it has the Harmful Microwave synergy with them like Catfire or Raiken. Has Ketsa synergy, so that's two prio moves that kind of cover each other, similarly to how Zalbian worked. But the downside there is no Sinner Typer. There's no neutral digital that works there. Fire digital that is in the game is Hedgen. It doesn't have any real synergies. The only other Chromion that I think I'll see play, and I think is probably in A+, is Water Chromion. This is a Chromion that not only gets really good synergy with Harmful Microwaves. Water Blade is also its like primary, prio offense, turn 1. I think this is a really, really strong Tem that was slept on previously, that has been a little bit discovered in 1.6, and be really, really strong alongside stuff like Hazrat, giving the Lava Wave synergy boost. Also might be strong alongside Mastion for the Cinder Typer bonus. The other traits for this is Pigment Inverter. Professor Thomas, do you think Pigment Inverter may pick up with the new harmful combinations? No. I do not think so. Pigment Inverter is like... Cinder Typer is such a massive boost that I think you just use the digital attacks and you don't worry about it. That's it for the Chromions. Move on to Molgu. I'm going to slide Molgu into B+ as well. You do see some minor differences with Molgu in, the Digi primary synergy being changed to Fire is better for Molgu, because it isn't as threatened by electrics. However, it obviously is still threatened by its own typing in digital. In theory, Tukma Mask is worse for Molgu, and Crystal Deluge being nerfed is also pretty bad for Molgu Sentinel trait, and also I guess Splitter as well. Seeing those sleep... Molgu I think is primarily played as like an anti-sleep option. Seems it also gives good value with Harmful Microwaves. It is a blue screen user, so the blue screen nerf does affect it slightly, although Molgu was never that fast to begin with running blue screen. And was probably still pretty good, alongside Toxics, which might see some more play now that the game is slowing down a little bit. Toxic players did finally see a Tornado get removed from a Tem, so nice. Platamus. A+, not much else to say. Platamus has incredible tight coverage, it's very fast, it has great special attack, it has some of the best bold moves of its typing in the game in Aquatic Whirlwind and Toxin Shower. It has turn 1 synergy with Electrics for Prio with Rotten Goo. It deals a lot of damage. Determined is a very useful trait. And Water Toxic is a really good defensive type. Platamus is incredibly good, and with the change for Digis from Electric to Fire, Platamus only gets better. Lawali. I'm going to go ahead and put Lawali in A, although I think Lawali could be a surprise Tem for this patch to push up into A+. Again, this is just my first impression. I'm going to be wrong with a lot of these. I think Lawali may be a Tem that people look, maybe not to straight up replace Gazuma, but it is a wind type with a pretty good defensive typing that deals big damage with its wind moves. It doesn't have Prio on Tornado. However, it does have Gust for Prio, and Hypoxia for big turn 1 wind damage. There's Prio and Plague. Resin Trap deals a lot. Backhanded, I think, is kind of overlooked right now. Could be played instead of Botanist, but Botanist is still strong. It is not a bad Tuckma Mask holder, I guess, but I don't think you'd want to play that on it necessarily. But yeah, I think there's some stuff going for Lawali. Its stats leave some to be desired, but definitely not that bad. Tataru was definitely S tier last patch. Now it is probably closer to, I'm gonna put it in, I think it's probably about the same power level as Molgu. We'll put it in B+. This is still definitely a playable Tem. It is pretty strong with sleep users like Valiar, Grandpa, really fast sleep Tems. Soft Touch is a really nice move, gives Tataru a small speed bonus. Getting a Tem to sleep and doesn't wake it up. That can stack up to a lot of damage with things like Charge and Major Slash, Energy Slam. Got good supportive options with Turbo Choreography and Perfect Jab. It can still technically boost itself with Rage, pairs really well with Schween. Definitely not a horrible Tem now by any stretch of the imagination, but feels a little bit lacking like it was prior to the Resilient change. Next up we have Garunda. I'm going to put Garunda in the A tier. I think Garunda is... well, is it A+? It's close. I think we're just going to put it in A tier because I'm a Garunda hater. Always have been. Tem really lacks in base stats. It's pretty slow, and its physical defense leaves a lot to be desired. It is, however, in that same tier of like Volfi and Gazuma and Volarend is just like this incredibly good defensive typing. Its offensive typing, not fantastic, but like decent. I mean, Electric is... Garunda can beef stuff up, or it can use beef up on itself or its allies. It can spread toxic ticks. It has like weird niche brumation builds you can do. Thick Skin is also really good. Effectively resist wind Tems. Just think it's gonna be a slightly more favorable meta for fires and also earths, and maybe not earths because waters might be around quite a bit, but more importantly, bulkier Tems that can just deal a lot of damage, especially on the physical side, I think might see kind of a resurgence this patch, although I guess I think that every patch. But Tems like Rolder and Venks do quite well into Garunda, so. And obviously, it's a Toxic, it gets dinked slightly for Tuckma Mask. I wondered this in the PDX server, I wonder if Tuckma Mask is something that pushes Garunders to just run Noxious Bomb. Magmut. I have not seen Magmut do very well at all. I'm going to go ahead and put it into B tier, however. I think it is not... I would not recommend that you stay away from Magmut. I think it's, like, underexplored. Definitely Stampede seems... Not Stampede. Trample seems like a really... What is it called? Is it called Trample? I can't remember what the move is called. The signature move is really good. It just takes some time to get there, but I think you can get there a little bit faster now. Magmut does match up a little better into Digis now that it resists fires, and fire is more common. But it is worse into water, which should be prevalent, but I think Magmut has a place. Worth pointing out that, like, Magmut now gives harmful microwave synergy, so could we see, like, bulky digital offense with Magmut? Perhaps. Bro saw my Magmut get slaughtered by Drakash Zypat. No, I do think Magmut has a lot of potential. It's just I haven't seen it, so I can't rank it higher than B. Grandpa. Hot take time. I think Grandpa is like a B+ Tem right now. I think the bird season change is nice. That's not necessarily why I'm doing it. One of the reasons I think Grandpa is pretty strong is I think it has Turbo Hypno. And now that Deluge has been nerfed, I think Turbo Hypno is going to be one of the best ways to control games with sleep. And Grandpa, I think, is just a really, really strong support. Bird Season makes it harder to wall, but I think the primary draw for Grandpa is Turbo Hypno, and I think Turbo Hypno is slept on a little bit right now, and could be pretty good. I'm a big fan. I think Grandpa is definitely playable. Patch. Definitely, I would not put it lower than B+ for sure. We'll put it in B+. Amphader. I think Amphader's an A. I wouldn't say it's like completely strong or dominant or anything. But it is very useful and reliable. It has a couple different modes. I think it is stronger on ladder than in tournament. Lulu said this a couple times. Lulu Drawer is top player, and I agree with him that you can get things out of people assuming that you're infectious and you actually being settling, or vice versa. Plague and Thunderstrike are really strong stabs. Sparks is a good support move. Bright Beam is really nice. In Evasion Stall with this thing, it's really annoying. Stats are not terrible. It's obviously very fast. It definitely does get hurt by the Fire Digi-Change, but it probably gets helped by Deluge being... Although it could outrun a fair few Deluges on its... Maybe not so much. Mudrid... Oh... Do I put Mudrid in C? No, I will relent. I will be fair to Mudrid. I think Mudrid has one thing going for it this patch, and that is that it is maybe the best Straw Shield user in the entire game. It really wants to be able to live one or two attacks and fire back with like really fast and strong moves. It's got Soil Steam and Dust Vortex, which are incredibly powerful offensively. It has Crystal Dust for high prio. Is it a PvP tier list? Yes, it is. I think PvE, you could probably apply a lot of that stuff. Isn't it forced to use Fake Beard? I think Fake Beard Mudrid is just terrible, right? Like, it's just awful. You get hooked by a Volcrane and die. No, I think Mudrid is... I think Straw Shield is the way to play Mudrid, and you just... Because you don't... Soil Steam doesn't cost that much, and you don't even have a high... You can't use Deluge until turn 3 now, right? So your Crystal move is now very efficient. Fake Beard not needed anymore since Deluge on 2-hold, yeah. Make Mudrid a physical attacker. Put that out there. Give it the old Corrin treatment. Flip it around. Give it Crystal Tail, like, what's it called? Do you have a crazy stamina problem otherwise? No, not necessarily, because Crystal Dust and Soil Steam don't cost very much stamina. It's kind of like Gaialis, where you technically have low stamina, but your moves are really efficient, so it doesn't cost that much. Taifu's in C tier. I have not seen this Tem played in a serious fashion in a very, very long time. Very unfortunate. Iron Coat might be... Oh, Pain Frozen, thanks for the follow. Iron Coat might be more popular. Yeah, I don't know. I think Iron Coat... I think Iron Coating Mudrid is still, like, really, really... With Crystal Deluge at 2-hold, this thing is terrible, right? I think the only niche that puts it above C tier is that you can lead it into... It's an Earth that you can, like, lead into melees and do fine against and hit them back with Soil Steam. So if you've got, like, a bunch of melee weaknesses, you can put out there with next to your mental, or I don't know. Maybe this thing is just down here. No, because, like, Taifu is, like, irredeemably bad. Someone could take this and do really well with it. I think you can do well with any Tem in this game. But I think Taifu is the hardest one to do well with. Put it that way. Natural Conversion cuts its own stab, and it has terrible base defense for a Tem that's slow. It's like an exacerbated version of the problem that Gyrander has, where Taifu has a much worse typing than Gyrander does. It has fantastic coverage, but nothing at prio, so there's no reason to run it fast. And its signature move is not strong enough, especially with natural conversion damage. Haifu is just like Waspine now. I actually think Waspine is not that bad. Not that bad. Moving right along, we've got Waplump. Put Waplump in A. This might actually be a better Straw Shield user than this one. No, I mean, Whipplump's just solid. It's very, very fast with Plethoric. It's good at spreading ticks with Water Cannon, just dealing a ton of damage. Obviously, its wind moves give it lots of flexibility. So that's pretty good. Whipplump, it's just a solid temp. It's hard to play because of the electric weakness. But with Digis moving away from electrics and more into fires, it gets a little better. I think A is like solid for it. Scrunch. Scunch is definitely A+. This thing, absolute workhorse against anything other than the maximum speed aggro teams. Just completely victimizes slow teams with like P-Jab, High-Toe, Oshi, Suplex. It's a monster of a temp to deal with. Brawny is not a very fair trait. A lot of damage. It's very difficult to check unless you specifically have mentals. And even then, players can start to look at going for the 75% Straw Shield, getting a perfect jab off into like a Chim CPG or a 2-Veen CPG or like a Electro Punch or something. Like lots of different ways to, or a Sparkling Bullet, lots of different ways to lead this safely into mentals now. Scunch does struggle into things that are really fast, but I think that's a playable around. And if you do that, this thing is very, very powerful. Mouflank. I'm going to put Mouflank in A+. I have a little bit of a neutrals bias, but I think Mouflank is just really good. It probably sees play in the, like, Chromeon Mouflank, like, Cowpie or Ketsa teams, which I think are going to be very good. It just deals a ton of damage. It's a sturdy temp. It can be run fast. It can be run bulky. It's very consistent. It has some niche applications you can run with stuff like Cage on Hurry Wart. But it just, you know, poops damage. Really strong, and not much else to say. Very, very good temp. Rolder. I'm going to put Rolder down. I don't think the stamina buffs are enough to save it. It still takes way too much stamina to put Rolder at, you know, a point where you would justify not playing a stamina gear on it, so that means that it's not going to be a good R-Val user. It's probably going to be going up against more waters. It's not that... It's just a little bit not enough damage early on. Drill Impact at 100 really hurts it. Stoneball at 120 really hurts it. It is not irredeemably bad. I think you can still play it and have success with it. But I do think there are better options. And a little bit unfortunate. Purpose. Not irredeemable. I would love to see Crema really lean into moves like Stampede, Rockfall, and Bestial Charge on Boulder, like the whole like charge Stampede aspect of it. It just seems like it's built for the Tem, and those moves are quite strong, but they're impossible to get to. Okay, moving along, we've got... Ooh, Naga. Naga I'm going to put in A. I think Naga is like super... Naga might actually be A+ now with Straw Shield, shutting down its electric weaknesses. It is... I think because of how strong it is in teams built around it still, I'm going to put Naga in A+. I think it's... obviously much better against the Digi matchups now that it's got less electrics to deal with. It really fast Hypno user. Yeah, Tardy Rush with Arval is probably underplayed. Yeah, and it's definitely not, like, again, I don't think anything is, like, even, like, B-tier stuff, I think you can still win with it. I just, like, I don't think it's optimal. Naga S-tier? X with the Naga S-tier callout. Bro has been playing, like, 2 Kai, Raiken, and 3 neutrals or something. In teams built around it, Naga is, like, super strong. I think it's really, really good. The Straw Shield and digital changes definitely benefit it. The Deluge change kind of benefits it too. You know, Crystals 2x it. Crystals might see less play. Yeah, I don't think Naga can be lower than A+. Yeah. I haven't played against too many of them, and to be honest, I don't get a lot of experience playing into Naga because I first ban it very often. But it is a bit of a nightmarish temp. I do like the bulky Strangle Hypnosis angle on this thing, because I'm obsessed with Strangle Tems. But not sure if that's good or not. Moving right along, we got... Oh, okay, maybe we do have an S-tier Tem. This thing's so good. I'm gonna leave Nid in A+. Yeah. I'll leave it in A+. Tuckma Mask makes it a little bit weaker. Digi's running more fires makes it a little bit weaker. But this thing is just absolutely incredible. The amount of damage it can put out with almost no offensive investment. You can also put in offensive investment and just crank people with like Noxious Bomb, Toxic Ink, Narcoleptic Hit. I mean, we haven't seen Slingshot Sharpleaf, but I bet you it's not even that bad. It's a Nature Stab, right? But, you know, primarily Tri-Apothecary, Bark Shield, Allergic Spread, Spores. It's one of the most, like, tried and true defensive, bulky sets. This thing has been good forever, and I hope that in 1.7 it gets a little bit worse. I'll rank Orphil. I think Orphil's probably B tier. This thing does incredible damage. Like, just straight up. It deals massive amounts of damage. I would rather you play it than Taifu, that's for sure. It's a fun Tem to play. I wonder if Slingshot Sharpleaf is better on Orphil than Nid. It probably is. Both are probably not really playable. Technically, Nox Bomb got buffed because Tuckma Mask doesn't resist toxic damage anymore. Or has it been like that for a while? I don't remember. Don't play Tuckma Mask. Moving right along, we've got Capire. Okay, hot take time. I think Capire is A+ this patch. Capire now has Tems that can play with it. Notably Neutral Chromion, potentially Water Chromion as well. But a Tem that gets Ketsa Synergy, but also Prio. Previously, Capire, Ali's told me this a bunch of times, and I agree. Previously, Capire really only had Moonflank as a running mate, and you had to play your whole game around Last Rush. Now you can play a really aggressive set that uses Night Protection to help it stay alive, give it some pseudo bulk, and just run it down. Run it down alongside Moonflank and Chromion, and just go absolutely crazy. Thing is going to be a premier aggro Tem in this patch, and I would not be surprised to see it be like the face of the new best aggressive team in the meta right now. I think Ketsa does really well this patch. Definitely the case. Thanks in no small part to, I think, Neutral Chromion can unlock. What trait does Capire run? I think you can do either way. You can do Last Rush and, like, beat a bunch of stuff and keep Capire in the back and then bring Capire out when it has Last Rush, find a turn to heat up, and then just hack stuff. Just spray it. But you can also just play Ignite Protection, which gives you protection, and use that to bulk yourself up a bit and play a fast and aggressive set that just comes out of the gate with neutral Chromion or Mooflank and just goes ham. You think that is really good. Xenareth, hot take time number 2. Yeah. Xenareth is A tier. I was going to put Xenareth in A+. I'm a big Xeno fan. I think it's one of the best Tems in the game, personally, for me to play. But, I am a big believer in Slingshot Crystal Tail, especially now that Crystal Deluge makes the Channeler set worse, and also makes, like, support Xenareth a little bit worse. This thing was, like, low-key insane in 1.6.1. Being able to use Deluge to set up for stuff with, set yourself up with Sharpening or Madness buff, or set up your ally with Court Shield. Xenareth is insanely bulky. Both of its traits are fantastic. It has really good damage on physical or special side. It has good coverage now on physical or special side. With knockback and Major Slash. Capire A+? Yeah. Capire is A+. This is like the bottom of A+, I think. And also that's my first hot take, I think. And Capire is insane. Xenareth, also quite good. Is really, really flexible, lots of different options. Red Farewell is slept on as a trait, I think it's very strong right now. I'm going to be trying a lot of Crystal Tail Slingshot Xenareth this patch. I think that is one of the ways to unlock Xenareth's stamina issues. Give it... Slingshot Crystal Tail is just a 90 base power, 11 stamina cost move or something like that. It's like perfect for Xenareth. Who's all about like longevity and sustaining power through its like massive bulk. A little bit slow, but other than that, it's fine. Aohi going to B+. Aohi could go in A, actually, this patch. I didn't see a lot of Aohi in 1.6.1. My theory in 1.6.1 was that it was an A tier Tem. Let's put it in A tier. This thing is an unbelievable support. It can burn, it can drop defenses on either side, it can sleep, it can deal pure damage, it has access to incredible fire moves in Fiery Soul and Magma Cannon. It has access to incredible mental moves now with Phantom Whiplash. It can deal tons of damage and then protect itself with Ignis Fatuus. It does a really good job getting value against defensive teams that swap out of it using Worm Gift. A lot of different ways you can play this Tem. I think it has always been one of the most underrated Tems in the game. The physical set was never good. Support Aohi, I think, is incredible, and I think it is well positioned to do that now that it has Whiplash to play off of its massive special attack stats. I think this thing will do really well. Also, obviously, it works with Digis now, which is great. Pretty cool. That's my take on that. Babawa. I don't think Babawa can ever get higher than B+, just because it has that crippling 4x weakness that it can't really do anything about. Babawa is a very good Tem. It's just, when you have a 4x and you're slow, it's not great. Toxic is the one typing that it's probably best to have a 4x weak to, but it's still just not great. And on top of that, Babawa has no turn 1 water unless you give up your gear slot. Toxin Slime is a very good move if you do give up your gear slot for Schween's Horn. I've been baited by Bobs many times in the past, but I do think it is a pretty mid. Definitely a good option for like bulky stuff. And like I've definitely seen Magnetonics have success with Babawa, and I know Scallywag has had a lot of success with Babawa as well. But I just don't. I don't think it's not it. It would take, I think, Tems like Platimus to fall out of vogue a little bit. Babawa to be like being able to go really fast and just shred you with Toxin Shower or even Rotten Goo is like, yeah, keep that. But not, still can be strong. Its support moves are really good. Drool is incredible on defensive teams. Put this in a defensive team, it can do work for sure. 2. OB10 or OB10. The Tem with the most names in the game. I'm gonna slot this one in A. I think it's part of a lot of really good combo decks. Obviously, it loses the self-microwave synergy, or the microwave synergy for now, but it does still provide incredible support options. I do think that the game getting a little bit slower benefits to quite a bit. I also think not being able to be like hammered by Crystal Deluge on turn 2 sometimes is really nice. Bush is still very just incredible turn 2 option. In Doom things with Digi-Threat, it has a lot of great stuff going for it there, so I do think that's pretty good. Time where we at? Whew, almost an hour. Wow. Lots of talking. Let's carry on. Saku. I'm going to put Saku in B+ as well. It's got a great defensive typing, lots of good offensive options. Undercut by its low speed, but does have a lot of really nice staying power. Oddly enough, could be like the best Akma Mask Tem in the game. Lightful is very strong on it if you can't tick it. It also can just run more conventional gears. Saku's lacks like really big strong moves other than Frond Whip, so it can get victimized a little bit, but I think it's solid. Like pretty good Tem. Solid. I think it's it's just a little bit victimized by its passivity and slowness. And we will obviously see more fires with the Digi-Change. Which does make life a little worse. Still a very solid Tem, though. Quite good. I think all these Tems are still pretty good. Valash. Valash can go in A. It's going to be a tricky patch for Valash, actually. I think Valash probably goes down to B+. It's a really tough patch for Valash. Mostly because I think Capire is going to be, like fast fires that deal insane damage are going to be everywhere. Valash lacks the bulk. It gets outsped by those fires pretty often. I don't love its type, how its type situation is kind of matching up here. It might see more play than other crystals that relied on Deluge before. This thing is frail. It's a neutral, so it does give Ketsa synergy. So maybe it sees play in those teams. I could see. We'll say top of B+. It can only hit really on one side, and physical Flash is pretty rare now. It, like, the sweatband change has not been kind to it. I'm trying to think like what else would impact this. It just doesn't feel that wrong. Like, people are like, why is, you know, Zeno and B or why is Zeno and B and Valash is A+ when this guy is literally like two of these guys put together, bulk wise, right? Like, just the change there. Scavenger stuff is neat, but I think it's really hard to play the scavenger stuff into. Okay, now we have Alhi. Alhi recently got the Sentinel trait. That's very cool. Very cool for it. B or B+. I have not seen Alhi other than when Jay played it and went to, like, top 4 worlds with it. I think the Tem is really strong. Intuitively, I think it is probably about this good. This is a bit of a hot, you know, a shadow. I'm going to call this a shadow take because, like, I haven't actually seen this thing perform outside of Jay's Worlds run, but fundamentally, I think the Tem is powerful. Oshidashi Turbine are really good hold moves. Perfect jab. Helicopter kick. All good turn 1s. Sentinel better than Bruiser? Yes. Well, no, I mean, it depends. Sentinel's always a meta call. Flip the trade around a lot. You seeing lots of sleep? You play Sentinel? Fun. I don't think you really want Sentinel on a Tem that is weak to mentals. It's a little bit counterintuitive, but now that Deluge is worse, we'll probably see a lot less mentals that necessarily sleep. We might see more stuff like Ragnite Grandpa fighting sleep. Continuing right along, we've got Barnshee. Has anyone tried this thing with Straw Shield yet? I don't think I've seen it, but it seems incredible. That seems like a good match, now that Straw Shield's at 75. Straw Shield being at 75 I think is a really big deal. Again, I haven't seen that many Barnshees. I think it's probably fine. It could be A, it could be B+. I'm not going to get too torn up about it. It's got lots of really, really strong turn 1 and turn 2 attacks. Bulk, high speed, high special attack, kind of a glass cannon. Can do some pretty cool stuff with Bamboozle. Now the Bamboozle is back to being broken. It's like, pretty good. Okay. I'm split. Maybe it is A tier. Got a lot of good tools. It's just really bulky, frail, hard to use. Sorry, really not bulky, frail. Difficult to pilot. Don't know if we'll see less electrics or not, but if we do, we could see. If you see less electrics, could see. Gaialis is going to be another hot take. I think Gaialis is probably not A+. It's not even a hot take anymore. I think this Tem has kind of fallen off, right? Normally, I'd be a big fan of Gaialis. Great stats, fantastic speed, good bulk, good offenses, good physical attack. Really nice set of moves to choose from. Other than its turn 1, which is kind of like its only weakness. Decent traits. I think there are going to be a lot more fires, and fire digis in particular. Make it really tough for Gaialis to be super strong. For that reason, I think Gaialis is definitely worse. Only gets A+ in A. Mix. Oh god, I don't know. It'd be B+. I want the B+ tier to be the biggest tier. This thing is really solid. Digis having more fires in them makes it obviously a very tough matchup for Mix. I also just think like prevalence of for Cap, more stuff running really strong. Fire type companionship is really tough. Phantom Whiplash is cracked. That is true. I do think that we're going to see more stuff like neutrals being led alongside Capire that makes it a hard time dealing with those neutrals. Neutrals are more likely to have multiple fires like Riken and Capire as a complement. I could see like microwaves into Etsa just shredding that. Well, these things have binary flood too, so it's like, I don't know, Chief. Solid Tem though, very, very good. Difficult to play well. Playground Puppet Master. High risk, high reward. I think spread moves are getting a little bit worse in general, and they're a little bit harder to use with Volvi getting buffed. B+, pretty fair placement. It's not super strong, it's not super weak. Matchup dependent, and also put in B+. Well, better than Mix, yeah. Riken. Put Riken in A. Again, I'm very, very high on the physical modifiers this patch. With the additional synergy that they provide to harmful microwaves users, it is a very big deal for those Tems. Riken obviously has more staying power and bulk. Rush being changed to 0 hold is a buff for it. Very strong with Prideful. It's bulky, it needs to snowball to get going. There are a lot of different things that have like snowball elements to them, different scavenger users like Balash and Karn that we'll see later that you can play with this. Just being able to go Prio Microwaves to Synergy Ketsa into a Prideful Kill is incredibly powerful, difficult to resist. Similarly to the electrics, fires are resisted by a lot of things. Fire is resisted by 3 things, I think, right? It's earth, water, fire, yeah. So, fire, not the best offensive attacking type, easy to switch into, but digital makes it difficult to switch into it at all, so that's to the fire's benefit. We will see more waters, so Raiken will have to deal with that, but Raiken does have some nice natural bulk, and Held Anger is an option in those. Scarabolt. I kind of want to put Scarabolt in A+. I think I'm going to keep him in A. Half-Full is an incredible trait. Good Friend is an incredible trait. Scarabolt has great moves, great traits, great bulk. It's slow and has a 4x weakness, so I think that does kind of hold it back from greatness slightly. But is a staple of really strong defensive teams. It gets a little bit better against, you know, Deluge not being played as often, which is kind of a point in its favor. Maybe it should move up, but yeah, I think games can slow down a little bit now and are less about like fast teams. Bumblegum, thanks for the follow. I think games can slow down a lot more now, and like slow tick-based stuff can come back a little bit more. The game, and I don't think that favors Scarabolt very well, but I don't know. Throw a baton pass on it, give it half full, or go for immunity gear and Good Friend, and definitely a very, very. Hedgen. This is a super interesting ranking. So Hedgen on its own. The script is kind of flipped on Hedgen. It used to be very, very good on its own, as well as being an important part of the digital stack. Now it gives synergy back to... It gives synergy to microwaves now. So it can be led with itself with Mimit. I think if I put Chromion in A, I gotta put Hedgen in A, and I think Hedgen is probably A. Fire Chromion as well. It's got a lot going for it. With the microwave synergy now, turn 1 is not super strong unless you can get that duplication thing going. But Prio Hellfire, Prio Zen Meditation, Prio Fire Tornado, all very good moves. This is a ranking I'm not super solid on. It wouldn't surprise me to see Hedgen not be an option selected for the Fire Digi Corps, but it could be. We'll see. Osakai. Wow. I don't know. I put Osakai in B+, I think. Fast, hook into DV options are there. Also be played on defensive teams with body stretch. Especially if you're Zax and you don't like doing anything. Option there. It's just solid Tem. It's undone, unfortunately, by being slow and having lots of weaknesses. Really, you know, there's going to be more, should be more fires in the game, but there should also be digis alongside those fires, which make things tough for Osakai. More waters can be a problem for Osakai as well. It kind of appreciates Crystal Deluge getting nerfed, although it still has to be in front of Mentals to do that, and it's often slower than them. Speed Wars, it's okay. Like, I think we'll see more Volphy now that Team Elusive got buffed. Yeah, physical Osakai could be an option. Play ball uppercut, not terrible turn 1s. This thing might be a little bit slept on, but Saipat, 8. Saipat is insane. Not only does it form a excellent core with Tataru alongside Schwinn, it is very, very fast, notably faster than pretty much every combination of the Digicore. I think it is slower than I think it's slower than... Is it slower or faster than Catfire? It is slower than Catfire. so it does not have that going for it. But it is very fast. Faster than most of the components of the Digi teams. Psypad outspeeds them. Schweenshorn, Venomous Claws, great prio move. Schweenshorn Noxious Bomb is incredible damage. It's bulky enough to take a hit or two. It's insanely fast, it has lots of damage with Shinobi tactics, or you can use the Amphibian with water moves to give it a boost. It's great in its own core, a good just option to slot on other teams. It is let down a little bit by its defensive typing, but a fast water, like these three kind of all have this in common, where if you're a fast water with decent access to prio, are going to be pretty good against the Digistacks this patch. But you'll be planned for or banned by the Digistack. Especially on a Temtem that's melee. Being able to do pretty decently well into the Digistacks, I think, is like really valuable. For Cash, probably sees a lot more play in those said Digistacks. It's also just a really solid Tem on its own. Burn Merchant. Got that unfortunate the 4x weakness to water. I think it could be... I think Straw Shield Drac could see play, be very good. Is it A tier or B+? We'll put Drac in B+. I think it's a little bit weaker of the Hellfire options than these two. Definitely can be played. Going to be a lot of waters seeing play to counteract these teams, some earths as well. I don't love Drakash's typing. I do love the moveset. Greats, the capabilities. I'm probably sleeping on this thing a little bit, but I do think that it is pretty good. Just, it's not consistent enough for me to... Really doesn't... Falls quite flat for me outside of... It falls quite flat for me outside of Hellfire digital stacks. I could see a case being made for it being one tier higher because of Straw Shield. We'll wait and see on that. It really is still, like, has problems with Earth's melees. Don't love it. I think Crystals and Electric see less play. Sentinel is good on bulkier teams, but yeah. I don't think the kind of teams that Drac normally sees play on are that concerned about. Okay. I'm starting to get sore, man. I'm going at this. This is a long video. Tortanite. Is it a hot take to say Tort is A+? Like, Tort is, like... here. I'm gonna move Tort down one tier because of the Deluge nerf. I think it was probably A+ back when it could use Deluge and had that flexibility to be played quickly. It is absurdly bulky. Great special attack. The numbers on Tortanite are amazing. It's not as flexible as you would think, mostly because typing. It still has some stuff going for it. It is a pretty primo R-Val user. I do think we're going to see a pretty large uptick in fires, though, and I don't love having to go up against fires. On the regular, I think for that reason, it's going to be a little bit... One of the reasons I like Xenareth in comparison to Tortanite is that it's harder to 2x Xenareth twice. That makes sense. I think that's really tough for Tort. Tort's kind of forced into R-Val as a result. And also, Xenareth like does something good when it dies. Or it deals more upfront damage, which is... willing to be wrong on this. I think Tortanite is definitely a super duper strong Tem. I do think it will be a little bit. Long we got Inky. I've always been a big Inky fan. I'm gonna put it in A. It is kind of rough into Capfire. but it just deals super flexible damage. And I do think that like slower, bulkier teams are going to see more play, and Inky is super strong into them. Just absolutely poops out damage. I don't know if we've really settled on what a good is for this thing, but I do think that both Fizz special are good. I don't think Straw Shield is necessarily absolutely huge for Inky like Cube. Like, I think most Inky builds get pulled to zero by a Ketsa from Cappy or Raiken. It's not the 4x that really does Inky in so much as it is. Inky would be an unreal if it had Hook, I think. You could do the Hook Arval trick that Bot did with basically beating Tyrox now. I guess that's possible, but it seems like could be good. I don't know. Yeah, I think Inky is, like, typing aside, just an incredibly strong damage dealer into slower teams. It's sort of like Scunch in that. It reminds me a little bit of Scunch in that way. Scunch is more powerful than Inky, but I think Specmaster in particular does phenomenally well. Okay, keep going. Next up is Shallant. I'm gonna put Shallant in B. Don't love it. Not much to say, really. Kivkansky's not playing this thing right now. Welcomer nerf kind of put it in the dumpster. I would say it has more options than Taifu just because it does deal a brick load of damage. Did I skip Perenniant? Oh, I skipped Perenniant. Yeah. Perenniant can go in B. It's better than Taifu. Perenniant actually has a lot of interesting stuff going for it. Let's just wrap on Shallant real quick. Shallant is really good. Huge stab damage dealer. Yeah. And Welcomer can be useful if you position your board state like a boss. Kesugatame is a really nice support move. Holds. This thing doesn't have Hook, and it should have Hook. Perenniant. Perenniant has a lot of really nice things going for it. It has a fantastic support move pool. I think... Is it the best turn 1 support move pool in the whole game? Or is it the best support move pool in the entire game? Schween might be better, but Perenniant is close. You know, Fluid Barrier is really nice. Revitalize is really nice with Synergy. Beef Up is really awesome. Ultrasound can be quite good. Yeah. Also, it's got pretty decent offenses and, like, coverage with potential to go for Schween's Horn, Nox Bomb for big damage, or regular Nox Bomb for coverage alongside Cold Geyser. It is great. It's just slow and lopsided bulk. Everything that Perenniant wants to do, it wants to do fast. Perenniant is slow. So, definitely think it has potential. Definitely super slept on Tem. But, definitely think it... Crema did this thing where they tried to make Perenniant more of a support Tem. And in doing so, they, like, directly put it in Schween's shadow. Right? Like, now it often directly competes with Schween for, like, a water-type support Tem. And Schween, as you'll find out later in this tier list, is just an unbelievable support Tem. It is super good for that reason. It's hard for Perenniant to be better. Did I forget anything else? I don't think so. Crocs. The Crocs is B+. You know, it could be gutsy and put it in A. I think it's... This Tem, for me, feels very dependent on whether or not the opponent can remove Doom. Ironically, Hukma Mask is a nerf for it. Right? Because if they can't get poisoned, they can't get doomed. It is a little bit... I actually think this might be A. I personally think that Cycrox is, like, really underrated. I think Neurotoxin, like, special attack fragger Cycrox is very underrated. I'm going to put it in B+. Yeah, I think there's just a lot of immunity being run, a lot of immunity that can be run. Going to be aggressive teams that have answers for it. Run it over. I think people can definitely cook with it. I intend to cook with it, but I don't think it's on the surface of it. I changed my mind. I do think it's that strong. I think it's like really good. Yeah, this is definitely. Yeah. Okay. Focus. So Focus not having Deluge to protect it, kind of tough. It's one of the only mentals that can make its own space. This thing I do think is B+, in that it is very lopsided. In its own team, it's pretty strong. I think it's definitely super annoying to play against. Outside of its own team, I think it is very weak. You kind of need to be hitting to slow down turn 1 to make this thing work. So if your opponent has anti-sleep, this thing feels rough. Not unplayably bad, and in fact, in its own team, very strong, but too team reliant to go higher. This thing is great at distributing sleep, dealing pure damage with Depress, area damage with Denigrate. Gamma just lights things up. It's a very strong Tem. I personally think it should have Cyclab just to lean more into that like mental stack team, but that might be a little bit crazy. It Focus Mimic, turn 1 double slowdown, turn 2 double Cyclab, turn 3 double Gamma Burst. Maybe a little too strong. Don't let East balance the game. Golzy, no clue. I'm gonna say Golzy's probably A. It likely fits in pretty well with like the neutrals on this like Capire offensive stack. I think it has like an outside chance to do age stuff with like Shween stacks. It's got like setup potential. Deals a ton of melee damage, but its electric damage is a little bit dependent on synergies. I do think this thing can be quite good though. And is... I wonder if people go back to the Arval set. Public service announcement. I guess this is my hot take with Golzy. Stop playing Adrenaline Shot on Golzy. Find ways to make Hasty Lunge work without using Adrenaline Shot. Put a Arval or a Taser under Golzy, and you will be a happy camper. Public service announcement also extends to Minotaur. Shook. A? Plus? Kind of hard to go wrong with this thing. Got a fantastic utility. Turbo. It doesn't overexert. When it overexerts, it self-scales, can scale its allies, deals toxic pure damage, can run Urushiol, can run wastewater, can run all kinds of incredible stuff. It's nuts. This time's nuts. Also, I feel like I've seen less winds in general. Like less wind Tems, like less of the toucans. So, yeah, I'd put Shook up there. Unreal 10. Okay. Mastion. Really interested to see Mastion Water Chromion combinations with Sinner Typer. Electrics obviously give it a bit of a weakness. I'm really high on the bulky fires. Mastion is the bulky fire that beats the other fires. I think it can't be lower than A. Got lots of bulk. Well, mixed moveset, and this thing is super strong. Another Tem that I was big on from Jade Oregon's Worlds run. Is there much more to say about Mastion? Not really. It's Lava Wave, energizes with microwaves. Ukama. Ukama probably gets into the A tier, probably sees some play. Really good Toxic Tick Distributor alongside Aquanox and Volarendus openers. Great Aquatic Whirlwind user, a little bit outclassed by Platimus, but still, like, definitely valuable. Gonna be good if you can get it to turn 2 against those, like, Fire and Digistacks. Good stuff. This thing should probably have Turbo back. Ragnet. Okay, Ragnet's really interesting. Doesn't give Microwave Synergy anymore. Still an incredible pack of support moves. But not giving Microwave Synergy, not being part of the Digistack is like a really interesting downside. It does protect them really well still. Much better than Zalbian does. I think for that reason, play it. And like be played on the Digistacks. Decent Sparkling Bullet user too for the neutrals. Yeah, thing is. Why is Catfire A+ tier? Because it's the future, Meg. That is the hot take. I think Catfire is going to be incredible this patch. Going to be super good alongside microwave users. And the Ignite Protection set is going to reach new heights as a super strong aggro. I can't have no hot takes, right? Like, I gotta have some. Size Munch. Size Munch B+. I'm not sold. It's a really big buff, but I'm not sold the special defense buff is F on it. It's like definitely a 10 that can rise up the list, prove me wrong. I don't know. We haven't seen any Size Munch. We haven't seen any Size Munches forever. Hang on real quick. I'm gonna turn my sound effects off. Ragnar is dead? Nah, Ragnar's got lots of utility. Everyone always says Ragnar is dead, and then the big tournaments roll around, and Ragnar always crushes. Going... Ziz. Put Ziz in B. See, can you answer me something? From a balanced team? I know you're watching this. I know you're watching me right now. Why has this Tem existed for this long with no coverage move? Literally, all it needs is a coverage move. You wanted to make it like here or even here, Narco Hit. All it needs is Narco Hit, and it's insane. Clinch? What a joke. Alright? All it needs, any coverage move. Major Slash. Boom. It's here if it has Major Slash. Or even at least here. But no, it's here now. Why does Narco Hit make it insane? All Ziz needs is coverage. All it needs is to not be walled, and then it is an insane lead. Rested Narco Hit is so much damage. And it's very stamina efficient too. I think this thing could use Major Slash. If this thing had Major Slash, it would be playable. The damage this thing can get is incredible, and because the damage gets so high, you can actually run this thing super bulky, like comparatively bulky to Rolder, and still eclipse it in damage for the first 2 or 3 turns. And then, when your damage falls off, you still have stuff like Petrify to contribute to the game in other ways. Just the big problem with Ziz is that it gets walled. Huge problem with this thing is that it gets walled. Yeah, the base HP is not great, but the defenses are solid. And the stamina and offenses are really, really good. I trust me, this thing just needs like one of Major Slasher Narco hit, and it'll be very, very good. I'll play it. Gorong! I think Gorong's like A, it's like solid. Really, what is there to say about Gorong? It doesn't have the utility or coverage moves that Mashuk has, but it's bulkier. Rush is a really good scaling option for it. It's just like a really solid Tem. Gonna be cooking some weird stuff with this on my team for sure, but I really like this. Let's read the patches for a good laugh. Do not disappoint. I'm gonna time out real quick. Gorong. Yeah, not much more to say. Solid 10. Zombie! I'm gonna put Zombie in A as well. I'm a big believer in Zombie. Maybe not that big of a believer. Being like monumental is really tough defensively. And this thing is like not quite fast enough for a Transient Echo to go above stuff. It does deal insane damage. It is in some ways kind of like Ziz. Just mental is a lot harder to wall than Mental is. It's got decent utility, it's got Hypnosis, it's got Beef Up, Strangle is good utility. It's got really tough, it's really tough defensively to play this thing, and also it's got stamina problems. Matter Teleport costs 1 billion stamina. Not a big fan. Sorry, I am a pretty big fan of the Tem, I just objectively don't think it's that strong. But this is like top of B+. It's like top of B+. Could be like bottom of A. Could use maybe a little more bulk too. Momo. Insane Tem. Not much really more to say. Find a good place to swap it in, get it set up in any way, shape, or form. Absolutely roast alive any defensive team in the game. Not that great into aggressive aggro stacks, but not that bad either with Bark, and that's a team could be played. Monkey House style aggro, Ren Momo. Incredible damage dealer. Not much more to say. Mentals may be slightly on the decline because Deluge can't support them as easily. Oh, Momo. Karin. Hot take. I think Karin is also an A+10. This thing is obscenely strong. Can be played as a defensive support with Stonewall. But it has just some really crazy moves. It has access to speed with Sludge Gift and Rush, to replenish its health with Scavenger. Soil Steam deals tremendous damage. Sandstorm deals tremendous damage. Petrify is like really, really good. Arn is bulky enough to not go down to Focused Fire. This thing is really... I actually think... I think this thing is really good with this thing. It's another reason I think Catfire is really good. I think Karn is quite nice with it. Or Riken as well. I know Zax has been doing a bunch of different Tems that do things when something... It has Psychosis for non-damage dealing ways of dealing. But I think this thing is like a fast, strong special attacker is actually like nice with it. Continuing right along, we have Cernleaf. Cernleaf. I think this thing's B+. I haven't seen much from it that would indicate otherwise. I think there was potential for a Tukma Mask Cerny set to like pop off, but I think there's going to be a lot of fire, decent special attackers. Always got to worry about, you know, things like Platamus and Mashuk dealing big damage to you, although the physical defense is nice. I don't love Cerny this patch, but I think it does have potential. Again, in this aggressive style of lineup. Back when Ketsa was really good in Kisuwa, there was like an aggressive lineup that played Cerny in it. And that was good. I think that can be good again. For that reason, I'm going to put it above B. Cerny is better than these two. Noxolotl, that's an A-Tem for me. It's not quite A+, but this is a fantastic defensive Tem. Really good trait. Really good options for support. Stare Hypno Turbo. Deals pure damage, doesn't need offensive investment. Nice broken Toxic Tem. Seems good. I've seen way less Toucans, way less wins in the game. I think this is a really solid option for minus def or affects its allies with like Turbo Hypno. Seems like a really solid. Gulda. With a Gulder in B. It's a little bit of Gulder disrespect. I could see Gulder in B+, but I do think it is a little bit weaker than that. Gulder has a place as the 4th Tem in Toxic stacks that can beat other Toxics in the Toxic stack. That is one thing it does very well. It is good against regen ticks and stuff like that with Infectious. Good at shutting down healing that way. I think it is a little bit too passive, even for a meta that is slowing down more and more often. Obviously, it being Toxic that only really Toxic ticks. Worse, although, you know, a high attack set that runs something like Harmful Lick could be good. I think it does still have some wall problems. Not ideal. I don't think it has super strong applications. Again, in Toxic stacks, I think Gulder can be good. It's like, I think in certain stacks, Ziz can be good. In certain stacks, Rolder, Mudred, etc. All these things I think can be good in the right stack. It's just a little bit lacking. But you're an M-buff Venom spread like intended. Volorend. I'm notoriously a Volorend hater. I'm going to put it in A. Balance myself out a little bit. I like Vola. Got a little more attack. It's got beef up. Stamina still kind of sucks. I'm trying to play Neutral Crime, but it's annoying. So annoying having the type stack because of this trait. I don't think you worry about the trait. AYX. I think you just... like, you can run maybe one more digital and one more neutral, but don't over... Yeah, I mean, I'm notoriously a Volorend hater, but, like, in that context, I like Volorend this patch. It's just kind of where I'm at. I think there's going to be less electrics. Crystal Deluge was low-key brutal for Volorend, especially if you wanted to play T-Plume Volorend. It was, like, really rough. I am planning to experiment with Volo this patch as a revenge killer. I think the aerobic set is interesting as well. Yeah. This is solid. Solid 10. A little bit better than these. I might revise my Saku picks. Okay. Oh, no, I skipped Grumper. Grumper! My Grumper's a B+. little bit limited by speed and not a great defensive typing. Grumper is really, really good at putting the stop to certain aggro lineups. It is like a little bit of a liability against status. Has good defensive options. It's a decent sort of all-around Tem. Yeah, it's just a little bit slower to deal damage early on. Is there a best trait for Volorend? Volorend's trait depends on the kind of team you want to play. Faster, aggressive teams tend to prefer aerobic. Also, consider how much wind damage you need to do versus how much toxic damage you need to do. Aero is really good at pumping out lots of wind damage, but it makes Volorend more frail and fragile. Anaerobic is better for longer games, and also if you plan to deal more toxic damage. And aerobic is generally the special set, and anaerobic is generally the physical set. Grumper is super close. I think you can build a dedicated team around Grumper, again, like Pocus with the slowdown tech, and it can be quite good. It's got all sorts of interesting moves with Petrify, with like T-Strike, Sparks, Electric Storm, Dust Vortex, Mud Shower. There's lots of compelling options for Grumper. But, I don't know. I don't think it's quite there. It's, again, slow and gets victimized by its... Next, we have Gazuma. Okay, hot take time. I think Gazuma is probably B+. Take on Ara. Gazuma, I think losing Tornado is a huge deal for Gazuma. It's still a good support, but it's kind of tumbling down. I would say Tornado Gazuma is definitely here, not Tornado Gazuma. It really struggles to output damage. I think this thing will still see some play, particularly on turbo teams or teams that can use like Naga's Deceit Aura to make Blizzard pop off. This thing can still deal a ton of good wind damage. Hurricane is really strong. Blizzard's really strong. It's just Tornado was a really, really good move, and losing it, I think we'll have to cook a little bit more. I'm not sold that it's complete picture. It's gonna take a little more. Ociara. Put Ociara in A. Still a fantastic carry in the right circumstances. Obviously, losing Water Blade was a big blow to it. Still really solid carry in the right circumstances, and should deal, like, turn 1 Tsunami should be quite good into Digi teams now, so that going for it. Who's going to play Takuma Mask on this thing? Someone's going to. Don't love it, don't think it's that good. You know who is Sophia? And I'm going to hate her for it. Like the turn 1 Blizzard option, the turn 1 Flood speed control is very good in Mirrors as well. This thing can be quite good with any sort of defensive support as well. Great Court Shield Tem to hit. Cool stuff with Hurry Wart and Serves Wrath on Swappins. It's solid. Could see it with high pressure water with some of these fires, for instance. Surely it's not good to run Takuma Mask on a Tem that already takes 2x from Toxic. That was kind of the meme. Yeah. Who's going to do that? Yowler. I want to put Yowler in B+, but I'm going to put it in A. I think the game slows down a little bit, enough so that long-term Tems like Yowler can have more. It's bulky. I do not think it is still the GOAT. The game has definitely gotten fast to the point where it can like mow Yowler down. Yowler's turn 1 response damage is really bad. Clinch is not cutting it. It's still a big beefcake and it can still hit back really hard. I'm not convinced it's still in that, top tier of Tems. Has some problems, especially with mental side. but also just tempo-wise. This thing really struggles into burn. However, I do think there is still that, like, raid boss Yowler archetype that can be quite strong, and Yowler fits into that style of team. Gario, hot take time. Hot take time. And Gario is also A+. This thing has everything that you need to beat aggressive teams in this meta. Would not surprise me to see people go for Drill Plague users to try and counteract this thing. Or Intimidate or Tyrannac to try and counteract this thing. It is so good. It just deals incredible damage on Earth or Water turn 1. Its trait makes it super defensive. It has an option to play either Soil Steam, Play Ball, and Straw Shield to help it against the natures as well. Basically giving it like 2 stacks of Autotomy. Using 75% of that damage. Really nice as well. I think Gary is like such a good anti-aggro tem. There's a good synergy with target rep Obi. I'm very high on this tem. I think it's quite good. Be useful as like a hard stopper for aggressive lineups that I think will be quite good. Could bump it down a little bit because of its Tyrannac matchup, but I think it's fine. Bricolum, I don't know. I'm going to put Bricolum in B+. Haven't seen it a lot. Don't think it's that strong. It again also suffers from being slow and lopsided on the bulk. It does have camouflage to help with that bulk being lopsided, but still... Bricolum suffers from there not being a good turn 1 special nature move for slow temps. You know, Plague really helps Lawali and Volfi, and you can see that like Taifu struggles with this too. Plague is good for Infader as well, Plague, but Plague is a move. It has intrinsic value tied to how fast you go. Secondary effect, really, really good if you're slow, or sorry, if you're fast. But if you're not fast, if you go second, third, or fourth, an 85 base power move, so slightly stronger than Uppercut, and it costs 31 stamina. That's one of the worst trade deals in the history of trade deals. But on Nature Tems, there isn't a turn 1, hold 0, eye damage. A move like Nature Torrent, which is only on Chromion, would be perfect for Broccolum. 95 damage, 21 stamina, 0 hold. Broccolum would slam. It would be 10 more base power, 10 less stamina. Wouldn't have a stamina problem with Broccolum anymore. Be awesome. But it doesn't exist, so Broccolum is worse. Queen. I think Schween goes in A+, just because on its own team, it's like S++ tier. Is there a better support in the entire game? I don't think so. You get protection, you get to set up Amphibian on stuff, you get to ignore ticks, you get to ignore negative side effects like minus defense on stuff. You can run Ragers with it, you can shut down sleep with Fluid Barrier. First, you can boost defenses with Court Shield. You deal pure damage with Toxic Ticks from Water Cannon on Synergy. Have lots of crystal damage from Crystal Bite if you want to go for that. You have options. I want to deal your damage or support. Waddle best support by far with Straw Shield? Nope, not true. The Waddle is a scam, and it's much, much worse than 1.6. As we'll see. Schween is unreal. Very, very good support. Nesla. But Nesla in B+. I'm never been sold on Nesla. Well, I've been talking up fires and waters and digis quite a bit. See, this is always the problem with Nesla, is that when you look at the type chart, you go, wow, this Tem must be incredible. And then you play it, and you're like, wow, this Tem sucks. It's just the stats, the defensive stats aren't there. It's not quite fast enough. It doesn't quite deal enough damage. It's so... Oh, man. So... Oh, Nesla. Doesn't do anything. Its highest base stat is 76. It's just like... You're killing me, Nesla. I think it's B+ for that reason. It can type check you sometimes, but I think on the whole, it's just not very consistent. Valiar. I am going to put Valiar in A. I think Valiar is the second best support Tem in the game, the best sleep support in the game. You need to build a team around it and to make use of its strengths, but turn 1 Bamboozle on a fast Tem that can follow it up with Hypnosis, can either go for Psywave or stare to lower opponent's defenses, can deal pure damage with Sleep Nightmare Feed, has access to Ultrasound, has access to Denigrate, has access to really efficient attack in Telekinetic Shrapnel. This thing is a really, really strong support Tem. I like it quite a bit. I think it is slept on right now for sure. And for that reason, I'm going to put it. I don't think it's A+. I don't think it's quite A+. It does need dedicated support to be good, but it can be quite good in those. Obviously, you want to go for effective denial usually. What team would you play it with? I would play it with like pretty much anything that wants a turn 1 Bamboozle at like very high neutral speed is good with it. A lot of setup stuff is pretty good with it. Really, really good on raid boss teams, yeah. Focus, Gallios, Lowaddle, yeah. Stacks, it's like really... Turn 1 Bamboozle is just really good. Only play it if you're cringe, yeah. Speaking of cringe, Waddle time. I'll put this time in B+, I guess. Straw Shield makes it really, it's better into Digis and Electrics. Digis are less inclined to run Electrics. This thing is pretty much just in the same tier that it was, like... Lowaddle is not that much different now, back when it was first released. Voodoo. But the process of it playing out is different. So, how it used to be, that Voodoo would deal a percentage of the damage that Lowaddle did to its ally or itself or whatever. It was its ally. Percentage of damage that Lowaddle dealt to its ally dealt to the enemy. And it was just a gimmick fest where Lowaddle would come in, it would like get fast charged, and then like hit a Mimit with Faraday Cage, deal a bunch of damage. The Mimit would die, it would deal pure damage to the enemy twice, they would die, and you would either win or you would get countered and lose. That's exactly what's happening now. Pick Lowaddle and you throw it on the board against something, and you click Roots at Prio, and if your opponent doesn't have fast attacking options against you, they lose. And if they do, you lose. I don't think this thing is very good against teams that are like prepared for it at all. Maybe it's a hot take. I don't think it's a very fun Tem to play against. It's ban bait a lot of the time. Do not think it is advantaged at all by the changes to Blue Screen and the changes to Crystal Deluge. Draw shield value is even better? I mean, I guess. You live 1, but like, what are you doing on turn 2 after you throw the roots down, right? Like, you no longer have Deluge to protect you. Yeah, I do not think Lowaddle is absolutely insane into aggro at all. I'm not particularly worried on it. I think it is much worse now that you can't protect it with Deluge, and also I think it is much worse now that you cannot just go for speed drop into blue screen. 3 prio speed control on turn 1 is game changing. Nah. I don't believe. We'll see. I mean, maybe I'm wrong and everyone just plays Lowaddle, but I'm not a believer. For what it's worth, I also think this is like probably the scummiest Tem in the game. Like, I just do not think it is fun to play or play against. But I do not think it is strong. Just like I do not think that the hit your allies lose if they have an answer, win if they don't. So strong. Like uninteresting, kind of boring, and it should be reworked. Kind of a not fun Tem to play with or against. Yeah, it's just fishy. I do think there is a way, AYX, like, for Lowaddle to just be a good Tem. It just needs to have traits that interact with this type chart. So that, and then just be an offensive threat. Draw Shield just makes it absolutely crazy? I guess. I don't know. See, right? What trait is run on it? Mainly Voodoo. You know what? I will put it in A just because of how dominant it is. Just how dominant it is if your opponent doesn't have any answers. It just ends the game. So it is like really strong ban bait in that sense. I do think you get more actions now, though. Because blue screen is now low prio. Penance is also a problem, too. I will leave it in A. It is like pretty dominant if it gets its moves off. Speaking of A-tier Tems, we got a Calibus in here. But a mid-range build? There is no mid-range on Model. It's you play it, you spam roots. Spam roots, you spam penance, you spam blue screen, and you hope you win. Calibus, A-tier Tem. A little bit slow, but does everything else. I mean, slow tempo-wise, not speed-wise. It's obviously very slow speed. But, solid. Solid stuff. Chat is mostly concerned about Lowaddle still. I think that's something that I'll just have to, like, play against it and see how it is. And moving right along. Oh, sorry, I mean, I should say more about Calibus, like... Synergy Laundry is nice for buffs. This thing really struggles to get turn 1 water damage down. The ticks are good. The Aquastone buff is nice, but I think the Aquastone buff was overstated. Calibus just has low stamina. It's phenomenal typing. Really solid damage dealer. Definitely an A-tier Tem. Just not as strong as it used to be. That's probably for good reason. Strangle's also nice on it. Okay, from there we got a Ouroboros. Don't think it's super controversial to put a Ouroboros in A+ tier. Like, what it does, it's super bulky, really good type combination in terms of having access to Denigrate. It's like super solid value Tem, really easy to bulk it up, doesn't need much special attack. Very solid. And on the other side of things, we move on to Tukai. I'm going to put Tukai in B+, just because I feel like it is a little inconsistent compared to some of the other options. It is a very fun Tem to build around. Spreader on the Wind Burst and Aqua Bullet Hell is obviously very strong. It's pretty good too with Hydro still. You do the Hydro Nox Bomb trick, it is very cool. Shooting Storm on a physical set, that is cool. I think generally just like being 4x weak and not being that fast. Being 4x weak and being not that fast is kind of a bummer. I'm 2 hours into this point. I'm running out of stuff to say, but I think that Tukai is like generally solid as a build around, but has some pretty bad weaknesses, and also like getting 2x by plagues and stuff is kind of rough. Could be a good Straw Shield Tem. See. Tolkien, I don't think Tolkien could ever be lower than A, but I do think it has fallen off compared to a lot of the other A+ Tems. Its lower stats have definitely played an issue. There will definitely be other fires that are going to compete for it with spots alongside the microwave users. Tolkien is still strong, but there will be more waters. There will be other fires that want to take its slots. I don't think Tolkien is going to be as strong, especially not being led. You can be led next to the fire digis maybe, but being led next to other digis that have harmful microwaves makes Heater a bit of a problem. It's a bit complicated. Tolkien is... Maybe this is a hot take. I don't think it is. I think Tolkien is not nearly as strong as it used to be. I used to think Tolkien was one of the best Tems in the game, bar none. Now it's definitely fallen off quite a bit. Yuvine, also an A-tier Tem, I think. Thing is super solid. Very consistent damage dealer. Very good against Toxics with the immunity gears, Receptive, or even just with the it's Toxics, it's very powerful. Really good Tem against Volarend. Yeah, it's like really, I think the increase in fire Tems and the Digistacks makes it a little bit harder for Tuvine. But it also just wasn't easy for Tuvine in general to deal with stuff like Munko, so it's not even that changed that much. Solid Tem. Stuff. Turok. I'm a big Turok believer. Always have been, always will be. I think it's an A+ Tem, deals a ton of damage early on. It's very bulky, very resilient. You can deal a lot of good stuff. Deal with a lot of good stuff. It's meta. Is worse into waters a little bit, but is better into fires than it was into like that typing situation for it. Decent Tukma Mask user, I guess. You're gonna want stamina gear on. Pretty solid Tem. Like, no, it's not even pretty solid. Incredibly solid. Deals a lot of damage. It's very flexible. You can play it fast with Soil Steam as well. It's like got a lot going for it. Works really well with Perfect Jab stuff, which may come back into vogue as the game slows down a little bit. Two-Wire. I don't know if this is such a hot take. I'm going to put Two-Wire in A+. Sorry, A, not A+. Like what this thing offers. Common factor is a high skill ceiling trait. Things, especially with Mom's Lunch. It's got a really nice opening turn with Faraday Cage. It balls off pretty hard after that. You don't get synergy up on Faraday Cage. Two-Wire's stats do not let it do stuff. But Two-Wire is a bit dependent on team synergy, not just what you want to protect it, but also what you want it to offensively contribute with. But common factor is such a very, very like high skill ceiling. Molgu B+, saying Molgu is nuts. like slow and doesn't deal that much damage. It's like fine. I'd say they're like relatively close. I'm not a huge believer in the one note from me, and I think there's going to be a lot of stuff that Molbu doesn't coming into the game these days. Tatsu, I am tempted to rank lower than the other birds. I'm going to put it next to Tukai. I think Tatsu kind of crumbles a little bit in front of the Digis. Don't love the stacking neutrals or wins, right? Or sorry, don't love stacking melees or wins currently. I could just be totally wrong on this, and someone's not playing a Tatsu win stack that could be incredibly good. Thing is very strong, and teams built around it. It just doesn't quite deal enough turn 1 damage, I think, to compete. Fortunate, decent raid boss Tem, but tough to make work. Kinu. I have not seen many Kinus. This thing can't be worse than A. Right? It's so good. It has fallen off quite a bit. We'll do... This is the other Turbo Hypno user, so I'm going to put it in A. I think Grandpa on B+. I like Kinu's support moves a little bit better. Obviously, Protector I like quite a bit. Seems solid. This thing... You are going to want to pick good targets to throw the Protector bonus on, but also, Benefactor is quite good on defensive teams as well. I think this thing can be good for sure. I think Lycube took this to rank 1. Not sure if he kept Kinu or dropped it. Don't remember. It's a very good time. Decently fast to get Hypnos off. Oh. You can learn Kaleido Lifel Sap. Very nice healing for its ally. Volcrane. Volcrane is... I would normally put Volcrane in B, but I think the self-hook build is B+. It has to fit on very specific kinds of teams, but it does go off. It's one of the easier ways to get in front of some of those water and earth damage, get your reactive proc, get set up, get going. This can be very strong, like Plat proved that. There's not really too much to say. You hook yourself if you have an opening, if not, sorry, if you're threatened, you hook yourself. If you're faster, you get out. Stone Trench, Meteorite, Jutsu, lots of different options you can play with it. Embers is very good on Volcrane as like a more defensive option, more supporty option. There's the Extinction build you can go as well, but I like, you know, hook followed by Trench. Not spectacular, solid. Obviously he's playing E+ fashion. Pig. I like Pig. I don't know if it's still the like top tier of defensive team supports. I put Valiar and Shreen ahead of Pig for sure. So for that reason, I think we'll leave Pig in B+. I am excited about the possibility of a friendship build on Pig. I think Mag played that and it was pretty good. I don't know how good though. Boom, Boomerang. Get the friendship triggered up is pretty nice, and also it does have lots of just fantastic support moves. Good for really strong defensive teams. Doesn't do that well on its own. Make it a little lower. Acronox. But Acronox in A+. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't think so. Really love the typing on this thing. Deals a lot of really solid damage with Soil Steam. Very flexible with Sting. It's a good water cannon partner for the waters that are going to be going up against a lot of fires. Going to go really strong Toxin Shower for triggering adaptives and stuff like that. Love the Rotten Goo slower synergy that deals lots of damage. I just think Acronox is very, very strong. It's definitely one of the best Earths in the game. You're going to want one or maybe two good Earths this patch, I think so. it being the one that isn't very weak to water, I just love the defensive typing on this thing and its ability to impact the game in multiple ways. It can trap, it can petrify, it can soil steam. It definitely can be very flexible, and I think it's a really good for that reason. We're in Koishes. I'm only going to rank the Koishes that I think are going to see a lot of play. I'm going to put Nature in B+. It very similar to Lowaddle. I think it's kind of a cringe Tem. You just play it and you hope your damage is enough. Don't love it. Arachnite? Arachnite's near the end, man. You're going to have to wait. Digital Iridescence, probably B+. I'm not going to elaborate too much on these. Mental Eerie is probably not going to see play because it doesn't give the Deluge synergy anymore as much. I think Electric is really good with Iridescent. It's probably an A-tier Tem with Taser. Super strong Tem. Very good defensive options. Similar to Kinu, at turn 1 provides defensive support. Turn 2, it sleeps, which is nice. Continuing down the list of Koishes, Fire Koish I think probably sees play. It's probably... Does it see play? The Ketsa with the neutrals, Synergy Adept, Microwaves. Yeah, I think it sees play. It's tried. I don't think it's A, though. I think it's... Crystal Koish, no. Hot Take Time, I think this thing is probably at least B+. He's a really, really good Schweinshorn user. You go Iridescent, so you cannot get killed in 2 hits, and you frag out with huge damage, Noxious Bomb, blow people up. Voice is running out. I think this is really, really strong. Volphy. Those are the only questions I'm going to rank. I probably missed one. I don't care. Volphy, I'm going to put an A. I'm a Volphy hater. The Team Elusive buff was good. I think it was kind of bad other than that. Still a little bit lacking in turn 1 damage. Don't love that. Waspine. Put Waspine in B+. I think Waspine is stronger than just Deluge. Obviously, the blue screen nerf hurts it as well, but it is extremely tanky, does a lot of pure damage. Obviously, can get run over by fires, which is something it has to watch out for. This is fine. It's, like, got way too good stats, and it still does have lots of utility move pool. I think it makes it better than the stuff in E. But I think it'll see a lot less play, and be that cringe stack generally goes. Bottle. Absolute cringe. Hazrat. I'm going to put into A. I do not think it quite gets to A+, but it might. I might be wrong on this one. Like, Hazrat is very, very good alongside the new Microwaves users. They're Water Chromion. Very, very good with Hazrat. So, Hazrat Chromion opener, followed by like a Capire sweep in the back, could be very strong. Time will tell. We'll see. Not too much complicated stuff to say about the rat. You want to play it with waters to get synergy lava wave. Other than that, like wastewater, you have embers for defensive options. Very underrated move on the rat. Fast embers. Yeah, venomous claws, quick kills, fun rush if you're insane. Not much else to say. Moments. I'm going to put Moments in A as well. It's obviously not splashable into every team, but in a dedicated team, Moments is very, very powerful. It obviously is not as good into the Digistacks. It has to watch out for fire, in particular. The fires being more prevalent in the Digistacks will be tough for Moments. But I think Moments does decently well hitting back with Digimoves. It's also just huge, problematic force. Oh, thanks for the compliment, Chipa. It sticks around forever, does a lot of damage, it can doom stuff, it heals itself just for existing. Problematic behemoth. Comments is there. Minox is probably playable, as playable as Taifu. You run Sparkling Bullet, Ultrasound. You have Resilient, you can't die. Go crazy. Minotaur, I'm gonna put in B plus. I really like Minotaur, but I think it is... no, I'm gonna put an A. People aren't gonna play that many crystals. It's my call. That was probably at least an A tier 10. It does a lot with Taser. You can go the Hasty Lunge build with Adrenaline Shot if you want. It really lacks for strong mental damage, but the beef up support is nice. Remains to be seen how strong this thing is into the digital setups, I think. It's kind of a wash trading fire for electric. It doesn't have this thing that it used to have where, like, couldn't hit Zalbian turn 1 because Zalbian could turn electric. That's not likely to be as prevalent an option, but you will have to watch out for stuff like your cache openers. Your cache Chromion opener can like microwave Mud Shower you, and then you're like, but you're probably faster than the Drac. It's different. Changes the matchup a little bit. Underratedly bulky Temp. Moala, I think Moala's C. Like I think Moala's like really, really bad. Yeah. I haven't seen it. Maybe I'm blowing smoke here. Maybe this thing is B tier. Have not seen it at all. Do not think it is good. Thanks. Have not seen it much at all. Think it is great. I am gonna hot take it. I think Venks is A+. The ED shot Arcane Wrap Venks is cooking. I think the digital stacks are actually less likely to be playing physical attackers and more likely to be stacking more special attackers. That makes Venks very good into them. I think Adrenaline Shot Venks is insane and insanely slept on. I can see it being like oddly played alongside stuff like Raiken and Catfire. I could also see a parrier version of this being deployed to shut down those Tems. I'm a big Venks believer. I'm probably wrong, but I'm a big Venks believer. Venmet, I am less of a believer in. I'm going to put Venmet in B+. I would be really interested to see how Straw Shield Venmet does, however. Not too much to say about Venmet. You want to get in, get your aggressor boosts up, swap in, swap out, land a big ninja jutsu. It's fine. It's, I don't know, I would prefer Skunch, I think, for the immediate impact of Perfect Jab over the turn 1 base jump. Kind of like Mouflank more for the turn 1 base jump. Tem in general. And probably sees play. I don't think it's that consistent, though. Ventil, I'm going to put in the same tier. I think Ventil, last patch, when you had Crystal Deluge to protect it for the time split turn, it was definitely higher. Maybe an A tier Tem. I think it's B+ right now, though. I haven't seen... I'm a big believer in the Tem. I think Adrenaline Shot Strangle into turn 2 time split is really nice. Don't think you can protect it as easily. This is a Tem that could be played with like the Valiar Galio stack, and I'd be interested to see how it does with Adrenaline Shot on Strangle. But don't know for sure. I could also see Arcane Wrap on this Tem and it being a buff recipient, similar to how Venks is often a buff recipient on the teams it's played on, where it leverages like Stare, Perfect Jabs, Beef Ups, Zen Meditations, that kind of stuff to deal with damage. I could see Ventil doing something like that with Arcane Wrap. I'm not sold on it, though. I don't think it's as good. But, not sure on that one. Can be wrong. Chimurian. Now, I think Chimurian, just purely based on usage, has been at A+, right? Like, people love this Tem on ladder. I am not so high on it. I think there's going to be a lot more fires. There's going to be a lot of Catfire and a lot of Raiken. And for that reason, I'm going to put Chim in A tier. To be slightly less valuable. I don't love playing Straw Shield on this thing. It's totally shut down by fires. I could see like Straw Shield multi-pex maybe on this thing as like a way to fight fires if you're forced to play into them, but that doesn't sound that appetizing to me. Low-key very good with 2-wire. Maybe we see that. Oh, AYX, it's your time. It's Arachnate time. Arachnite is A tier. Arachnite is defensively very powerful. It now resists the attacks of the typings that it would resist after adaptive. So I think it's 7 out of 12 typings. Now, stuff like water, electric, nature, fire, all of these things are now Arachnite turns into that type before it gets hit, so it resists the damage. Very powerful defensive effect. Its offensive boost is cut in half, so it's very hard for Arachnite to impact the board. I think the teams that Arachnite can have success on are narrower now, pretty much confined mostly to toxic stacks where it can get the ticks out of water cannon. However, it is much better as a lead in those teams. It's much better as a lead in general. You can put more investment into it offensively because your trait gives you more defensive value, or you can continue to just play it defensively and have it be a really problematic lead for the opponent to play into and still get value out of side toxin showering it. For side triggering its effect in some way to get some boost. It'll just be easier for Arachnite to resist some of those things now, like hooks, toxin showers. Well, toxin shower is the same, but hook in particular is resisted easier. It's easier to side trigger Arachnite without dealing lots of damage to it. You have a particular type that you want Arachnite to be, and it's not weak to that same type. You can now just like hit it. Like, for example, let's say you're going up late game against a Chimerian, and you know your Fire Temp's about to die. You can, at Prio, if you can't hit the Chim, but you can hit your Arachnite or something, you can turn Arachnite Fire without dealing a bunch of damage to Arachnite with, say, Fiery Soul, for instance, or Wind. You can turn your Arachnite Wind type with an attack without dealing a bunch of damage to it. A lot easier to self-trigger without dealing damage. But the standard self-trigger stuff that was based around not dealing very much damage obviously won't be as good. Less of a payoff. I think Arachnite's solid. Wouldn't play Digiprotection. Tried it for like 3 weeks. Didn't love it. Munko. Munko is definitely worse. I'm going to put Munko in A. Before it was A+. Now I think it has some potential to be played alongside the Fires with the microwave synergy. It may also be like good against slower teams with Zalbian. It is maybe worth considering Straw Shield on Munko to fight other digitals with, because you resist the damage and you deal a lot back with microwaves into digis. Definitely worse. However, I think Shaolin Soul Shout with Robe is still quite strong, and I'm interested to see where the Straw Shield takes it. I think this Tem can still have some success. Any Tem's getting S. When I started this tier list, I said that I didn't think any Tem was going to be an S. I was wrong. I was definitely wrong. Anatan is not the Tem that proved me wrong. Anatan's going in B. The game is just a little too fast for Anatan right now. Personally, anecdotally, I found that even when you get Anatan into a matchup where it feels good, it still just like takes too much damage from everything to actually get set up and like have that value. I've not been a big fan of Anatan for a long time now. I'm not entirely sure what to do about it. Maybe it's good with Straw Shield. I'm not sure. Maybe it's good with Late Torment. I'm not sure. That type of team still feels a little slow to me. I might be wrong. Not a big fan of Anatan. Could see it maybe with 2-wire. Not super sold, though. Haven't really... Again, if you've got examples of people to watch who play Anatan, I'd love to see. Love to be proven wrong. Love the Temin concept. Do not love the Earth weakness. Karn got really, really good. It's really tough matchup for Anatan. Dario seeing a lot of play, really tough matchup for Anatan. But even stuff like Saipat, Capire, Platimus seeing a ton of play. The Chromions are now like water very often. Like, so many of the Tems in this tier are just like really tough matchups for Anatan. Mushuk, Duroc, Acronox. I just noticed I have 4 Earth Tems in here. Maybe I'm a little too high on Earth. I'm going to put a 5th one in there too, so there you go. I was wrong when I started the tier list. I said there was going to be no S tier Tems. There is one S tier Tem. I think Tyrannak is an S tier Tem. I think the change from Slingshot now giving it turn 1 nature damage puts Tyrannak sort of over the top. I think it is an unreal offensive option and really safe lead. Very few weaknesses. Only has the one weakness that it can hit back with fire moves. I'm not sold on running Smoldering Kiss instead of Embers on the Slingshot set. I think Slingshot just for Sharp Leaf probably worth it, but it is hard to overstate just how much better Tyrannak got when it got access to turn Pliable Nature. It completely flips the Earth matchup, completely flips the Water matchup. Like, it just expanded the pool of Tems that Tyrannak can just come in and just absolutely start slamming. Slingshot is 50%, so Sharp Leaf is, I believe, somewhere between 85 and 90 damage. So it's sort of like just a nature uppercut. That efficiency is very good for Tyrannak, who previously struggled with stamina efficiency. Now has a very efficient move to click. Now has a great way against waters and earths to itself into outgrowth. Tyrannak, I think, is the best Tem in the game right now. I will say, however, that there is a chance that the prevalence of mono fires, if the Capire prediction does come true, if we're in the new next Ketsa meta, I think it's possible. But I do think Tyrannak gets worse. It is better into like Platimus and Acronox with Slingshot, but I do think the mono fires do give it a problem. So the fire digistack could cause issues for it, yes. I think that it's still worth running on like most non-aggro teams, some way, shape, or form. Especially if you can buff it. It's very, very good. The second mythical, Volgon. I'm going to put Volgon in B+. I'm a big Volgon believer. I plan on playing it this patch. It's a little lackluster right now. A little bit one note. Click 2 attacks. Why don't I like Smoldering Kiss on Tyrannak? I just really like Embers. The pure damage on Embers is slept on quite a bit. But Smoldering Kiss is fine too. I just find that I would try Embers first, I think, if I was trying out that Tyrannak. I like Volgon as a Tem that deals a ton of damage with Thunderstrike and also has Stare and or Beef Up as options. It's a good Strangle AD shot user. It's a good Strangle user in general. Ampere Outburst is one of the most powerful moves in the game, but it is very difficult to set up appropriately. Very difficult to get value out of. The Tem statistically is a little bit too slow and a little bit not bulky enough, but man, does it have a cannon for an arm. It actually has no arms. Actually, it has stubby arms, I think. Stubby arms, right? But, oh man, it deals damage. Electric side. Low-key, I also think it's very, very strong with 2-wire. The Thunderstrike, especially if you stagger it so that the 2-wire's Faraday Cage goes after the Thunderstrike. Neutralized Thunderstrike from this thing is going to deal a ton of damage. Good cleanup. An option. I don't know. Tem's a little bit below the power curve right now, but don't sleep on it. It could be very strong. Last Tem on the tier list is Gallios. Gallios is a monster. It's going in A+. It is the absolute doom of neutral Tems. A bulky, not crystal or electric weak, mental. Has access to sleep. It has access to denigrate. It has access to lots of great attacking moves. It slowly ticks down its doom clock It necessitates that it be dealt with, otherwise it comes back to life. It's a mechanic that is very frustrating to deal with. Selfish Ruination is a very powerful move. It buff its allies or itself. Makes that Doom Clock tick down even further. I really think Gallios is a super bulky, very difficult to remove, anti-aggressive aggression Tem. I like it paired with Tyrannak. It is very good, and it's definitely worthy of its spot on the list. I think it'll deal really well with the monofires. In fact, Gallios might be one of the biggest reasons why the Capire prediction doesn't come true, because that sort of like Capire blue flank neutral Chromion stack, you would think that the neutral Chromion would actually help against the Gallios with the digital damage, but Gallios is so bulky that it can just tank the microwaves and then hit back with Beta and smash the neutral Chromion. Smash into a Digi with Dust Vortex or Beta Burst, or smash into the Capire with Mud Shower or Dust Vortex or Beta Burst or whatever, right? Like, it is built to out-trade aggro teams really, really well, I think, and that is why it's fairly high on this list. Is it as good against defensive teams that are like prepared to remove its statuses? You can argue maybe not, although it does have like Adrenaline Shot, Jinx Whisper, it does have Denigrate, it does have like pretty good like ways of dealing with that is really strong. And that's it for the tier list. I don't think there's like too many crazy hot takes in here. Like the Capire and A+, I think is the hottest one. Other than that, a lot of people really advocated for the Waddle. I hate this thing. I think it's so stupid. But that's the list. Can't wait to see how wrong we are as the season progresses, but we will keep this up here and revisit it in a while. Our tier list. I can... next time I do a tier list video, I should definitely be able to get... it wasn't until I put Tyrannak up there that all the Tims shot, so... Yeah. Oh, what trait for Arachnite? Adaptive. Mulgu B+ is cursed? I think Mulgu sucks. I mean, I get... Maybe I'm wrong. I just think it's quite bad. Yeah, I think the, like, primary advantage to playing Mulgu in 1.6.1 was Sentinel. I think Sentinel is worse, Deluge being worse. I think Deluge being worse picks away at a lot of the sleep teams, and Mulgu's status as an anti-sleep 10 is less important. As a solo damage dealer, it's really dependent on having Faraday Cage synergy. It falls below curve otherwise. Okay, what gear? I don't know. No, not Res Badge. Marvel's First Aid Kit. Thanks for the tier list. Thanks for watching. And also thank you on YouTube for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like it. If you really like it, tell your friends about it. Post it in the Temtem Reddits, in the Discords, whatever. And we'll see you for another video.